Bag, I want the bag. Work my way from a garden to a track. Flip it from a track to a plot full of acres. Do it for the farmers and the producers and the makers. What we even here for? Occasionally I ask it. I know it's more than struggling, anticipating the casket. Reap what we sow, I'm trying to fill up my basket. Life's a plantation, I self-law and master. Over the plot I've been granted on this planet. Now it's slanted cause the chosen been supplanted. But if you overstand it, it was spoken. Fractured but we ain't broken. Even though some would rather play the role of token, we growing. Black through the essence of our presence. We carry the blood of gods, we carry the mind of peasants. Rich black gardens, future look more like Eden. Multiply seeds like the seed banks in Sweden. Rep my planners on plan according to season. B1 code, switching it up is treason. Black power, family what we eat. Either we get fed or we feed. B1AG.
Welcome black, welcome black, welcome black. It's John Henry Harris of Farmer Brown EMC, and this is the B1AG Daily Bread Podcast. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. We got something special for y'all today. Farmer Brown EMC, a little while ago, he actually did an interview with an elder, a sometimes controversial elder, but an elder who always keeps it real. That's what he's known for, and this elder is Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown, we know him from his reality TV judge show, Judge Joe Brown. Is one of the most popular judge shows ever, courtroom-based shows ever in the history of television. And, he's always been a straight shooter, straightforward, talks very plainly, directly, and makes sure that everything he says is rooted in truth. Now, even though now that he's retired, his truth may it may ruffle feathers every now and again. He's made a lot of headlines lately about some of his comments, although, if it came out of his mouth, it's more than likely than not true. But Farmer Brown actually had a great conversation with him, along with Danawiththedata, who's in the video, which provided courtesy of Danawiththedata. And Judge Joe Brown's actually dropping major gems about Black agriculture. The challenges associated with Black agriculture, as well as some possible solutions. So today, what we'd like to do for y'all is to go ahead and we want to show you this interview and hear it straight out of the elder's mouth. Now, again, we know Judge Joe Brown, he can be funny, very entertaining, but I would like you to see exactly how serious he is when he speaks on this topic of Black agriculture. It is a very serious topic. And in kind, his tone was very serious, but very informative. I would like to throw in, talk to your elders. Maintain that connection with your elders, your ancestors. They have a wealth. If y'all ever seen DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck, he had his vault. He just swimming through gold coins. That's representative of the collective knowledge of our elders. That's those jewels, that money, that that value of that knowledge that they have to pass on to us, that we need to make sure that we reap those. We need that wealth of information. So again, Farmer Brown MC, you have anything that you want to tell the people about your interview with Judge Joe Brown?
Just first, I'd like to say peace to the B1 family. We don't want to talk too much today. Really listen to the elder. I would encourage anybody interested in getting into agriculture, really take notes, either mental notes or literal notes on what he's dropping. Shout out to the sister Danawiththedata. Very informative. And I think it's a lot for us to learn and take in and really understand the gravity of the moment we're in right now.
That's what's up. B1AG family. Y'all sit back and enjoy Judge Joe Brown, Farmer Brown, and Dana with the data.
Together by a dear friend of mine. She's passed now, Elder Rosetta Quisenberry. What this is a character of a black male holding watermelons and chickens. Now, if we're coming from a revenue standpoint, we know a lot of people eat watermelon, regardless of your ethnicity. And we know, we just had a Super Bowl. There was a lot of chicken consumed. And so, like we were talking on the last show, we come from a group of people that did this for 400 years for free, no profit. And so that's in our genes. Genetically, it's a part of our nature to be able to produce. And so it had to be marketed in some way for that not to be a viable career of choice or a viable entrepreneurial endeavor. So the whole thing with Farmer Brown, it's one thing talking to adults, trying to get adults to appreciate the value and reasserting ourselves in agriculture. But I feel like with the 3rd through 5th grade age, we have an opportunity to change how they see agriculture. We have an opportunity to change how they see their place within agriculture.
One second. Let me ask you a question. You ever heard of Thomas Burrell?
No, sir. You say Tommy Burrell?
Thomas Burrell wrote some books. He got out of Howard University 40-some years ago, about 40, not 40, a little less than, about 40, all right? Set up corporate farming. He was doing great business. 80,000 acres at a time, 200,000 acres at a time. He was becoming a great success. What do you think I had to represent him on?
Being too successful?
Look, you guys, you are coming down hard on a very successful black farmer. What in the world are you trying to do to this man, trying to put him in front of a grand jury because you know this stuff is trumped up that you've got on him? That gets serious. That's what happens when you get serious. How about this one? Dissolving an injunction against a beautiful then 16-year-old sister. She's in her 50s now. And her grandfather left her 80,000 acres, some good old boy redneck types. They had been leasing 80,000 acres from her grandfather for $50. Burrell offered her 25% of the profit on the crops, $250,000 for that and a few other acres. And we had to get an injunction dissolved, and these good old boys moved boulders and cut down trees to block egress in there. And I got an order dissolving an injunction that had put on the young lady, to keep her or her guardians from renting the stuff to Burrell, where it broke down. Sheriff, if you look on the hood of the pickup, you will see a briefcase. There's one order in there signed by Chancellor so-and-so, and I got a 45 in one hand, a 357 in the other, and the people on Burrell's side, everybody's armed with riot guns and semi-auto rifles, and the other side is similarly armed, and he's going, guys, Jesus Christ, everybody lower their muzzles. We can't have no bloodbath around here. Oh, good Jesus Christ Almighty. Said, let me see what you got, Lawyer Brown. Says, Jesus Christ, Randy, y'all boys is in here trespassing. I'm going to have to run you in. Now, don't you raise them muzzles. Yeah, what do you think they're going to do when you start getting successful and have to deal with the politics and the use of the criminal justice system under the feds, which your current president had a great deal to do with setting up the laws that they were trying to get Mr. Burrell indicted under. Real nice. Really, see, it wasn't all about the crack and everything. It's all those other things that the newspapers don't report. See, what do you do about that kind of thing? And the biggest problem he had was getting finance. I need $3.4 million in immediate credit extended to work this operation. And he's got 75, 80 tractors and farm implements he's running on massive corporate farming. He's in his 70s now, like I am. But what you do about that? See, son, these are the kind of things you do. Land loss. The law firm I was with, Wharton and Associates, back in 1981-82, we got a commission by a committee of the U.S. Congress or House of Representatives to look at loss of air property. In Tennessee, at the turn of the 20th century, almost 75 going on 80% of all arable agricultural land in West Tennessee was owned by black folk. What happened is people inherited interest, and somebody's in Chicago, somebody's in Cleveland, somebody's in Gary, and people would go up there and give them thousands cash to buy their interest in the farm. All of these people became tenants in common with black landowners, and they demanded a partition sale, and now less than 7% of the agricultural land in West Tennessee is owned by black folk. Might be less now. That was 40-some years ago.
Like,
and everybody was asking for the cash.
Can I read something real
now
quick?
You got a different situation. What are we going to do about that kind of thing?
Before you answer that, let me read something real quick. Justice for Black Farmers Bill introduced in the Senate. 6 Democratic senators announced legislation on Monday to end discrimination at USDA and to expand Black-owned farmland up to 32 million acres through land grants over 10 years. Sponsors include 5 members of Senate Agriculture Committee, which will handle the bill. Justice for Black Farmers Act will address and correct USDA discrimination and take bold steps to forgive debt and restore land that has been lost in order to empower a new generation of Black farmers to succeed and thrive. This was said by Senator Cory Booker.
Good. It's garbage. You know why?
But you know what?
It said garbage.
Wait 1 second. It says restore the land that has been lost. What about the land that has been stolen?
Excuse me. It's garbage. You know why? There are people that hold valid title, free, simple, absolute to the properties in question, the land in question. And what happens is you have to exercise eminent domain to get them off of the land. So here's somebody that his great-grandfather has owned it, grandfather has owned it. He may have a lucrative deal to lease it out. So he's going to be very upset if somebody comes in and exercises eminent domain to take his property and allow black folk to farm it. Next thing, the other part of this is hooked up with something we ran into 37 years ago. They were talking about at the time, homesteading or farmsteading some of the land, like say around Yosemite. But what is all of the ecology folk dealing with? No, we have to protect that for public parks. So the question becomes, if you're not BSing, where does this land come from? Mm-hmm. And remember, most of it was not stolen. It was as a process of U.S. long-standing property law, where one tenant in common out of the 15 or 20 family members decided to sell his interest to some white developer who becomes a tenant in common, and you cannot deal with any kind of situation coming out of that that's positive. So by long-standing American law that has nothing to do with race, you force a partition sale.
Well, what about the 40 acres in the mule?
This is the good one. A lot of people inherited from grandmama or granddaddy 25, 30, 40 acres of land that they go down into Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas and look at it. It's overgrown with all these trees. They don't think it's worth anything. What they don't realize is there's $3 million in timber on it. So when it comes time for them to answer to the estate taxes, they can't pay the the estate tax on $6 million worth of timber. Or if somebody wants it for housing development, the developers buy, sell, trade around each other, and they don't have any money changing hands, and they keep ramping up the price. So somebody thinks he's got a people of bottom land worth nothing, and it's worth millions on the market as it is today.
But what
You
about the
can't pay
40
property
acres?
taxes.
What about the 40 acres in the mule that was stolen from?
You had that. It didn't get stolen. What
It
happened
got taken away back from the free
No, it didn't
slaves.
get taken away.
Yes, it
What
did.
happened was this. No, January 16th, 1865, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman had a bright idea. He issued an order as theater or district commander. General Ulysses S. Grant approved it as Union Army commander. Abraham Lincoln, as commander-in-chief, approved it. The Republican House and Senate funded it. And what it was is every married black man got 40 acres of land confiscated from secessionists who were looked at as traitors, and one army mule, 40 acres and a mule. It went into effect. It worked for 6 months. They even had a setup where any black young man that got married could apply, and they would apportion him 40 acres of confiscated plantation land and one mule. Well, Johnson, not Lyndon Baines Johnson, but the Democratic President Johnson that took over from Republican President Abraham Lincoln after the assassination, said, no, I can't let my buddies lose the land. So since the South still hadn't been restored to the Union, which was just conquered territory, he, as commander-in-chief with authority over that military district, rescinded Sherman's order. So after 7.5, 8 months of it working well, you lost 40 acres and a mule. So there have been a number of actions, including the Civil Rights Act, the so-called of 1866, following on to the 13th Amendment, in the 14th, 15th, and it went downhill from there when they said you cannot do that because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights does not allow you to have any effect or to have any effect on private ownership of property rights. That didn't come into play until the 1950s when Thurgood Marshall came up with the novel theory that since private ownership of these things, restaurants, properties, buildings, businesses, impacted interstate commerce, the Constitution was found under.
How did you jump all the way to
Commerce Act.
1950? But wait, okay.
Because it was 100 some years where, 80 years where nothing applied.
All right,
so there was no redress.
I want to go back to the guests because I don't want to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying these are these things in place. I had to deal with it.
No, I want us to readdress this, but
I'm interested in solutions or answers. It's just I've known about them for 40 years, so I'm interested in hearing what anybody has as a suggestion to get around them.
Right. Well, okay, so let's focus on your organization, Farmer Brown. All that with what was said, do you remember, what was the question you asked him, Judge?
I just said, how do we get around this? Do you have any suggestions?
And so my immediate suggestions, and so I know you've heard the climate change, helping the planet. And so one of the things that destroy the ecosystem is methane. This is from the livestock, the cows. So in this greener planet, and I'm kind of tying it together, and I think you'll understand what I'm saying. And so it's only 1% of black farmers earn over $1 million, and these are primary operators. 79% earn under $10,000 annually. 48%, the majority of their revenue is coming in from livestock. You can put 2 and 2 together because livestock is land intensive. You have to have a lot of land. We also know that we're in, and not just us, but we're in communities where, there's bad food insecurity. In my modest opinion, so my day job, I'm a cooperative extension agent for small farms, is minimize the amount of livestock producers and go more towards vegetable production, specifically in urban areas. Like you said, who knows what's the magical fix?
Well, isn't that rob Peter to pay Paul? Black entrepreneurs who are dealing with the cattle business or the meat packing industry, and for example, halal. That is okay for Orthodox Muslims to eat, also for Orthodox Jews to eat. It's essentially the same as kosher meat. The only halal meat packing plant in here is owned by some friends of mine. It's in Shelby County, right outside of Memphis. So if you get halal anywhere in America, it's produced here. They deal with acquiring cattle in auctions like everybody else. They do things to them, but I mean, it's a lucrative business. It's essentially a de facto monopoly because they're the only ones in the country and they sell worldwide, and it puts a lot of local black youth with low educational levels to work. What about them? Did they get cut out of this? I mean, these are questions. See, there are things on one side that, you know, don't mesh with things on the other. And all of my ideas, the question is, or the dilemma is, how do you integrate them?
And so once again, I think about places like Georgia, the Deep South, where you have a lot of farmers in rural areas, but in the urban areas, say you'll have in Atlanta, where you have millions of dollars going through.
Let me ask you a question. Do you run into many black farmers who can exclusively small farm, or do they just basically have a day job or a night job, which is something else, and farm or live on a farm?
Everybody. So we have a network of about 20 farmers now, black farmers in Kentucky. Everybody has another form of employment, but the majority of them.
That's what my experience was.
Yes.
So that is still the case.
Yes. But what I do know, and this is, I kind of stumbled up on it doing my research with Farmer Brown. You'll be surprised how many people, like these farmers, didn't know they existed. And I mean, there may be 2 counties away. Kentucky isn't that big. People find themselves in silos. When we think about cooperative models, if you don't know that other people exist, you know, these are feasible things. Like my fiance and I, we're not like agriculturalists. We came in more from the marketing and education aspect of it, but just connecting people down in Tennessee, for example. You think about Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis, you know, how can you make it a subculture? How can you promote it commercially? Sesame Street was promoted at a time. When you think about Bill Cosby, when you think about LeVar Burton, these were things that impacted the youth of those days, right? And so the concept with Farmer Brown the MC is, you know, let this be your first, if you're going to see this thing about farming, and people that look like you, let it not be through a slavery narrative. Let it be through, you know, a cool character like you would see on Sesame Street. When your parents interface with it, let it not be something that seems arduous. Is it a cool event? We actually got our start with our business doing farm tours. It was very simple. We cap it about 40 people. We don't want too many people, but we're bringing people from urban area, Lexington, Louisville, to the rural farms. We're able to pay farmers honorariums. We're able to source their meals, you know, at least 60% from whatever farm. Farm to table dinners are just normal culture to many other groups, but within our community, obviously, it's not that big of a culture. I know up here. I don't know how it is farther down south, but you tend to run
in Memphis, Tennessee right now. Grew up in Los Angeles. May I make a strong suggestion? I like your ideas, the way you're thinking, but get a very good general legal practitioner who can deal with contracts and criminal law, because if you get really effective, everybody I've known that has been so over the last 40 years, they've come after them, and they will set you up if you are not very careful about getting you involved with people that they know are doing something wrong. It's innocent enough, but they will come after you.
It started, Judge, and I definitely appreciate that.
That is a bad thing. Very bad thing. Might I also suggest that you come up with something, if you can get somebody coming out of college or grad school with knowledge, biochemistry, come up with an energy efficient process of making a plant-based fuel alternative. Right now, on balance, to make gasohol, for example, you input more energy into the production thereof than you get out of it, which is not efficient.
Mm-hmm.
You need to look into that. But there is a lucrative market if anybody actually, in fact, gets interested in ecological developments. But
right.
I don't know.
So
also, if you can encourage somebody to deal with, and this is good for a farm because you don't have to get miles from your charging source. See if you can encourage somebody to develop electric tractors that are environmentally friendly because they're non-polluting, and you can set up various charging stations around the farming property so that you can recharge these devices, the trimmers, the tractors, and such like. It becomes much more efficient than when you have to worry about how you're going to get your Tesla charged up and God knows where. But look into that, and there's some interesting subsidies that would come from that I haven't seen anybody look into. Just an idea. I'm trying to help you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Farmer Brown. Any last words you'd like to say?
I've been itching to ask. I know there was that Martin Luther King speech where he was talking about the land grant, and just I like to get your quick historical context of what role land grant played in this dynamic with Black agriculture, and what role can land grants, specifically the HBCUs, play in resolving it.
Well, actually, a lot of the HBUs came about as a result of agricultural development. The historical ones were set up by the Freedmen's Bureau, which was the entity that was initially charged with administering 40 acres and a mule. You had General Howard, who was a Union general. He lost one arm. Howard University is named after him. And during the period he ran the Freedmen's Bureau after the Civil War, he did try to set up a lot of agricultural involvement with the colleges. You had like Tennessee State now, which is famous with their football games, etc., with Jackson State in Mississippi. Well, Tennessee State used to be known as Tennessee A&I, Agricultural and Industrial. And they have switched a lot of the historical Black colleges and universities from an emphasis on the technological aspects of agriculture to something else. So you might want to go around and see if you can set up a cooperative with some of the HBUs directed toward restoring some of their original purpose to the current effort to develop Black enterprise, to wit, Black farming on a large basis. All of these small subsistence farmers who have other jobs that I'm familiar with, one of the things you can do is collectivize them. See, especially in agriculture, you buy in big lots and the price drops significantly, but they can't afford to buy in big lots. But if you had a cooperative, the cooperative could buy in huge lots, and the individual farmers, by being members of the cooperative, could get a proportionately lesser price than it would cost them if they bought on their own.
There it is, Black. There it is, B1AG family. Judge Joe Brown laid it out, man. But I know one of the biggest things I got from what he said, cooperative. There's a phrase that I use, that we use. Many hands make light work. We got to come together, use cooperative economics, combine our talents and our efforts, and we can get a lot done. And we can really take care of our food security and food insecurity issues. Now, one thing we could do definitely is learn how to grow. Let's get Black to the garden. Go to healthyblackfood.com. Learn how to grow your own food. Use the promo code podcast. Get 30% off. There are a lot of solutions that we can get from our elders if we just really listen and apply this knowledge. And if you have any questions for us or suggestions, or just want to show off your grow operations, go to B1AgHipHop@gmail.com, and we will get back with you. But at the end of the day, Farmer Brown, if the people really, really want to know something, what do they need to do, bro?
Let's get black to the garden, get our students into a productive mindset, and learn how to grow something.
There it is. This is John Henry Harris and Farmer Brown EMC with another episode of the Daily Bread, B1AG Daily Bread podcast. And we hope to see you again soon, prosperous, and enjoying a bountiful harvest from your garden. Peace out.